We wonder how one can best protect themselves, what kind of actions we can take if we're trending toward a greater depression. And these could be, for example, kinetic items like starting a garden or building and maintaining a greenhouse, or more passive things like investing passively in food or energy or housing, or classic inflation hedges like gold or even Bitcoin. What are some of those things that a person can do?
All of those things that you mentioned are wise, and I do all of them. Unfortunately, the average guy is being forced to become a speculator. He's being forced to try to second guess the markets to figure out how he can stay ahead of things. And most people are not very good at being a speculator, so it's not going to end well. It's like people trying to outrun the inflation of Weimar Germany in the early 1920s, and that didn't end well either for Germans as individuals or the country as a whole. What I think is going to happen is somebody will come along, some glib politician will say in 2024, look, I can solve all this. Just give me adequate power. And we're going to elect a man on a white horse, type of thing we see here in South America a lot. And then it gets worse. The things you mentioned, have a garden, smart. Pay off high interest rate debt, smart. Take out a long-term fixed interest rate mortgage while interest rates on mortgages are still reasonable. Not do that. What do you do with the money from your mortgage? I think you're okay buying gold. Gold is a reasonable value today. I'd say buy silver coins, put away. As far as other things are concerned, the stock market and the bond market are poison. Although I'm in the stock market and bond market personally all the time, I think people should look at oil stocks right now. These big oil companies are very mismanaged, and they're very into ESG and diversity, inclusion, and equity stuff. But still, I mean, yesterday, I bought a bunch of shares in Petrobras, the Brazilian national oil company. It has a 20% dividend yield, selling at 4 times earnings, and I think oil is going higher. So there are opportunities. Listen, we're on the Titanic, and it's basically rearranging deck chairs for most people.
Yeah, food, energy, and housing classically are a lot of those areas where people invest in times of great uncertainty and the potential for recession or maybe even a greater depression like Doug's been talking about here. And yeah, Doug, I've made the point with our audience here before that in times of high inflation, the everyday worker consumer kind of has 2 jobs. Their first job is their day job, and then their second job is learning how to be an investor or speculator to get rid of that dollar that they earned before it loses purchasing power and get out of that dollar that they just worked for.
You're absolutely correct, Keith. This is a time right now when it's still possible voluntarily cut back on your standard of living so that you still control it, as opposed to waiting for bad things to happen when your standard of living is going to be cut back for you, whether you like it or not. So now's a good time to try to earn more and cut back your standard of living against what's coming in the near-term future.
Well, Doug, do you have any last thoughts as we potentially trend toward this greater depression?
There's really nothing cheap in the world today, but the capital that you have should be allocated towards the best bargains in relative terms. And if you want stocks, you should buy oil stocks, coal stocks, uranium stocks. And as far as personal possessions, you should own as many gold and silver coins as you can put aside for safety, for prudence, for insurance. You should educate yourself and learn actual economics and learn the techniques of being a speculator. That'll come in very handy as the markets are going up and down like an elevator with a lunatic at the controls, because that's the case. Better diversify yourself politically. If you can't get a second crib outside of the U.S. or your native country, wherever that is, at least move from a place like California to Nevada, which is an improvement, tax-wise and regulation-wise. So you can do things like that.